Warning: The Lobo Show contains adult content, crude humor that may go against your religion, ethics, and morals. A perspective point of view you may never find your own. Viewer discretion is advised. Good evening, good evening, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back, hopefully, to the greatest thing that happens once a week, the debacle, the deplorable, the hateful, and we are very grateful, the Lobo Show. I am your host, the Lobo, and with me, as always, my producer, Heapsack. And ladies and gentlemen, we got a special show for you tonight. Believe it or not, we have a guest coming in tonight, my pal, my good friend who flew from Alaska to come hang out with me and Heapsack at the studio, the Lobo studio here in New York City, my boy Nanook. And he'll be in here, after the news. He's gonna fucking take a couple pot lollipops that he brung in from Alaska. He's got a lot of great stories, and we're looking forward for him to coming in. But ladies and gentlemen, of course, we have a lot of shit to get off our chests. You know what I mean? And we're not fucking coughing like fucking Hillary Clinton and shit, doing those coughing fits. You know, Hillary Clinton, she's been coughing like she's been working in the coal mine for 40 fucking years. Exactly, and it's Cory fucking Booker, who belongs bussing tables. I don't know what the fuck is he talking about. The guy sounds like a professional wrestler every fucking day with his fucking sweaty head and his bullshit stats and his nonsense. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing tonight? Hope you're having a great weekend. Looking forward to it. It's the Lobo Show here. Me and Heapsack. Well, obviously, I want to touch up on the big news, and it seems like that sometimes the big news is like, oh, you guys are always so local. You guys are talking about the United States because we know that, there's people from all over the world that listen to the Lobo Show. Australia and shit, you know what I mean? Guys from England, guys from Sweden, Belgium, France, Germany, whatever the fuck, Canada and shit. They're all different. Maybe some Mexicans, who knows, right? But a big story here that I want to talk about, it's Kanye West. Kanye West, ladies and gentlemen, Kanye West. Yes, Kanye West, the rapper, the guy who's creating quite a stir. Most people are saying that it can be a publicity stunt, what he's doing right now, where he's going around, he's wearing that red hat. Let's make America great again. MAGA, if you will. If you want to abbreviate it, some people, the youth is all about abbreviation. These kids, I'll BRB. I'm just going to the store right quick. I'll BRB. All right. The kids don't got time for full lines. But I'll say this. This is Kanye West sitting with the president of the United States, Donald Trump, and obviously the world is watching. And he's sitting next to Jim Brown, if you will, football player, and he's a black activist. A lot of people knows the guy. Jim Brown is a guy that you don't ever want to say anything negative about because this guy's always been helping out his community. He's never been asking. He never asked for a dime. He's just an activist, and he's just literally, a person who's been pro his community. And he's sitting next to Kanye West, and this is Kanye West talking to the president of the United States, Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen. Lobo Show.
They tried to scare me to not wear this hat, my own friends, but this hat, it gives me power in a way. When I put this hat on, it made me feel like Superman. If he don't look good, we don't look good. This is our president. He has to be the freshest, the flyest planes. But I love this guy right here. Let me get this guy. I love this guy right here.
Okay, so that's Kanye. That's meeting with the president. Kanye, he's on some different shit, obviously. You know what I mean? And I want to make this a discussion here at the Lobo Show that we can really fucking talk about. Because like I said, people, and I like the fact when people go, hey, Lobos, you're always speaking some real shit. You're always speaking from the heart. And I really, really appreciate that. But then I want the audience who's listening to this to speak from the heart too. Fuck it. If you guys going to listen 10 minutes of the show, 15 minutes, I'll listen to the whole fucking thing. But let's talk about this, the whole Kanye West thing, Let's talk about the backlash that he's getting right now by a bunch of fucking liberals, to be quite frank. And like, yo, I thought it was fucking disgusting, to be honest. There's that CNN guy, that Don Lemon guy, he calls this a minstrel show. A minstrel show. I thought it was fucking disgusting. And I really want to play a clip on this. And like I said, let's discuss this. Let's fucking everybody make their own minds up. But I played Kanye West talking about Trump, and let's hear what Don Lemon, CNN anchor, has to say about Kanye West meeting Donald Trump.
I have no animosity for Kanye West. What I saw was a minstrel show today. Him in front of all of these white people, mostly white people, embarrassing himself and embarrassing Americans, but mostly African Americans. It was so hard to watch him sitting there being used by the President of the United States.
Minstrel show? Like minstrel show? I want to make this very clear right now, ladies and gentlemen. Look, I'm not black. You know what I mean? Everybody knows, Lobos, if you don't know, I don't have to say what the fuck I am, but I'm not black. But I'll tell you this, though, I'm not a fucking racist. And everybody who knows what I'm about. I'm from New York. I'm from the fucking hood. I don't give a fuck. If you're from the boroughs and shit, if you're from the 5 fucking, the territories, if you will, you know what's up. You went to school with black, Jews, Muslims, Catholics, Christians, Asians of all kinds. It don't fucking matter. So, I don't fucking get all that bullshit. But for this guy to say a fucking minstrel show, I think it's a fucking disgrace. I think, to be quite frank, it comes down to politics, right? Now, this guy, Kanye West, he's very influential and he speaks to a generation. That's the bottom line. And the problem with these liberals and shit, and the liberals means like these Democrats, they're all afraid that they're going to lose that the black youth or the youth in any way, right? And I think that for this guy, Don Lemon to say that shit is absolutely fucking irresponsible, because to me it's like, what the fuck? And this is the conversation that I want to make right now. So are they saying that any black man that votes for Donald Trump is a fool? Are they saying that all women that vote for Donald Trump is ignorant? Are they saying that all Mexicans, all Latinos out there who voted for Donald Trump are betrayers or the sellouts? It's like, what the fuck what is that? These liberals, I love the fact that they got these celebrities and these fucking rich liberals out there who are trying to pacify us and trying to say, oh, this is what's best for you. And I'm going to tell you. And let me tell you something. If you think that Donald Trump is good, you're misinformed and you're probably stupid. It's like, what the fuck is that shit? Let's have the conversation. Let's fucking open up to it. And obviously, Sack, you know what's going on. The celebrities were open in uproar when it comes down to this Trump thing, and Kanye. Obviously, Kanye West's fellow peers, they weren't too keen about this, were they?
No, they're not, Lobo. Kanye West went to the White House to have a lunch meeting with President Donald Trump. And he also went to have a meeting with Jared Kushner, said White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders. The topics of discussion during the lunch meeting with President Donald Trump included manufacturing resurgence in America, prison reform, how to prevent gang violence, and what can be done to reduce violence in Chicago. The celebrities took to Twitter to express their opinions. Rapper T.I. wrote on Twitter, "This is the most repulsive, disgraceful, embarrassing act of desperation and auctioning off of one's soul to gain power I've ever seen." Other celebrities such as rocker Axl Rose took to Twitter and he wrote, "What a joke. Not going to solve anything in Chicago or anywhere else with any of that attention-seeking nonsense."
First of all, Fatso Rolls. Ugh, God, I hate that fucking Fatso Rolls or asshole roll, like my boy Oklahoma over there, you know what I mean? Old sensei will tell me, right? But dude, shut the fuck up. First of all, what the fuck did you ever do that tried to fix the situation? And another thing to T.I. is like, I'm not gonna front, dude. If you want to fucking dish it, then you should be able to fucking take it as well. And I'm right here, the Lobo show. Don't pull any fucking punches. I think T.I. is a fucking rat and a snitch. How the fuck, motherfucker, you got caught with fucking machine guns and shit? You know what I mean? And then this guy, he didn't do any time for that. They're like, oh, he got in trouble. He got a little slap in the wrist, and then he got caught again with like mad fucking like e-pills and drugs in his car. And again, this motherfucker didn't do any time, and he still got his reality show. You know why? Because he's a fucking rat. And let me tell you something. I'm from New York. You know how that goes and shit, right? There's a code here. It's like an unsaid code. You don't rat, right? So here's the thing: when you see a guy and shit who got caught, and everybody know he got pinched and shit, and he comes back to the street a week later, and you see a bunch of the homies get locked up, then obviously, what the fuck did you do? You fucking, how the fuck are you out? You know what I'm saying? You got caught with a machine gun and shit. How the fuck are you out in the streets a week later? So he needs to fucking keep his mouth shut when it comes down to that. I think that's on some real ass shit right there, right? Yo, these celebrities, like I said, obviously they're puppets, you know, they're being told what to say at all times, but it should like it should raise a red flag right now. Why are these people pushing the same agenda and they're trying to tell you, oh, fuck this guy? You know, I want to tell you something with Kanye West, right? Is he crazy? To me, look, I don't completely buy into Kanye West. I like the guy, I think he's a genius, but I think the guy's also a modern day artist where he's trying to get that publicity in some sense. Now, I don't say that he really needs it, but dude, the guy fucking is banging a Kardashian. He's Kanye West. The guy knows how to keep himself in the news and shit. But dude, when it comes down to this Kanye West and like Axl Rose, like people like that who don't know what they're talking about, I think the guy is truthful where he does want some kind of change. You think Kanye West is not going to the Trump? He really wants to change Chicago. Here's the thing. He really wants, you know, he really wants like, hey, look, man, I'm coming up to you because don't make me look like a fucking idiot. But I really think that you are trying to do the right thing. And he believes that the media are absolutely like just pushing this agenda. Like he's saying that he can't wear a hat, or like these other guys I see on YouTube. Oh, I can't wear my hat. I can't say I'm a Lobo fan. I'm going to shout you out with my other account. Stop being a pussy. Grab your fucking balls. Here's the thing about these fucking Trump people, right? They're afraid to say that they like Trump, but I know these people, right? They're not racist. It's like, yo, listen, if you're not racist, just say, listen, I am a Trump guy, and I'm willing to debate because I do like the fact that he does this and he does that, but also there's some things he don't like. Well, he said he was going to do this, and he said he was going to do that, and he didn't. Just like any other politics. But for this whole thing, it's like, oh, we got to fucking, you know, like, oh, black people or Uncle Toms because they like Trump. Where, you know what I mean, or like, you know, Latinos, if they're for Trump, oh, what are you, immigration and all that bullshit. It's like, come the fuck on. It's funny, it's hilarious when the whole you know, Katrina thing, Hurricane Katrina happened in New Orleans and shit, and you know, Kanye West goes out there, he's like, oh, Bush hates black people. You know, the liberal media at that time was like, yeah, fuck yeah, it's true, god damn it, yeah, it's right. Now he's with the Republicans. He's on that side. And he's like, hey, listen, let's give this Trump guy a chance. Let's not hate. Let's not be on some violent shit. Let's be open minded. Now the fucking liberals like, oh, he's crazy. He's fucking dumb. He's stupid. And you know what they're doing? They're hiring. I seen this. I'm telling you right now. And I said this before. If you watch Fox News, there are two black conservative women. They're named Diamond and Silk. And, you know, they're kind of like hood and shit, right? And they do their thing. They talk about, but they're conservatives. They're Republicans in some way, right? That's one thing, right? Okay, I guess that's kind of a spin. But now you got CNN. Now they got these two guys, I guess, and they're like hood kids and doing these videos on the fucking cam. And like, they're like absolutely rude. They have no facts, and they're like liberals. They're going, oh yeah, Kanye West is you know, Uncle Tom and all of that. He's Uncle Tom. Like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. Why the fuck did you have to like? This is the tactics of the liberals. The separation and all this shit. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna make you guys make your own interpretation of that. You know what I mean? You know where I come from. I'm from New York, so I'm not racist and shit. I'm a Trump guy all day. That's 100%. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that shit because I don't sugarcoat balls around here. Gee, this is the Lobo show. You know what I mean? But you know, I'm always willing to take any kind of debate. I'm not here to shut anybody down, call anybody stupid, or insult anyone's intelligence. I feel that if you are a Hillary Clinton person, or say like you're like a liberal or whatever, I don't think you're ignorant or stupid. I just think that you have different views than I do. But let's talk about it. Let's get in the middle. But I just don't want people like, you know, like who are those and call me a complete idiot and say, oh, that Lobo show, all he is a moron. He's an idiot. He's a Trump guy. Fuck out of here. These assholes, they make their fucking YouTube videos and shit. Like, oh, you know, I'm fucking smoking a joint and shit. I'm fucking riding skateboards and shit. But I'm an asshole? Fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Lobo Show. We're approaching podcast 100. That's gonna be the big extravaganza. Oh, heap sack. We got the fucking. We re-signed the contracts. We're good to go for another couple of months, I guess. That's what they're telling us. And I think it's gonna be a big party. And hopefully, you guys will be there with us when we celebrate. Because I'm telling you, holy shit, come along for the ride. It's gonna be a lot of good things coming up. Speaking of roller coaster rides for the faint of heart. Speaking of natural disasters, speaking of happiness and birthday cakes when they arise. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take very serious what I'm about to play right now and what I'm about to say. This is the greatest segment in the history of all podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to brace yourself for the one and only, the never duplicated, the original nightly news with the heap sack.
WINS, WINS HD, WWFS HD3, New York. All news, all the time. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday, October 12th, 2018, 55 degrees in New York City, and this is the Nightly News with the SAC. President Trump signs the Music Modernization Act into law by Engadget News. The president signed the Music Modernization Act into law with various celebrities, including Kid Rock, Mike Love, and John Rich present. This is one of the largest reforms to copyright laws in decades, and it focuses on updating music copyright law to be current with the streaming era. It also will hopefully mean more royalties for artists and songwriters. The Music Modernization Act was unanimously passed by both the House and Senate. The bill, which is officially named the Orrin G. Hatch Music Modernization Act, streamlines the process for music licensing and updates rules about royalties for streaming music. The goal is to ensure that both artists and songwriters are compensated for this method of listening. It also creates a publicly accessible database to make it easier to credit who should be paid for a particular song. The Classics Act is another part of the bill, and it ensures that artists are properly compensated for pre-1972 master recordings. Additionally, the Allocation for Music Producers, also known as AMP, Act provides for increased compensation for producers and engineers when their music is used online or satellite radio.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, man. I think it's good because, to be honest, like, you know how it was back in the days. You come out with you sign to like a huge record label, to a record label or whatever, or you signed to some kind of contract. There were like stipulations in terms of you had to sell X amount of records, and this and that, for not to be in debt when it comes down to it. But no matter what, you had some kind of royalties. You had like, hey, I wrote this song, I want my fucking money when it comes down to it. It may not had sold now, but maybe perhaps 30 years from now, it's the biggest fucking hit in the world. I think that music it came a long way, Sack, as you know, in terms of like, well, we're not like old timers that much, but we came from the CD era, Sack, and now it's all like fucking like MP3s and on MP3. I'm dating myself, but it's all fucking downloaded shit, right? Like the old days, Sack, of the old making your own fucking CDs and all of that shit.
I always tell people when we start talking about streaming music or music in general, it all started with Napster. Because I remember back in 1999,
Nice.
going on my computer and, you were able to get any song you wanted. And I thought that was the greatest thing in the world. I was like, wow, I mean, you're getting this for free and any song you wanted, anything. And I thought to myself, I was like, wow, like, this was, 20 years ago. I was like, what does this really mean for the music industry? Like, is it
Right.
going to die or
Right.
I don't know, yeah, it's very crazy. But, this law, hopefully, I mean, this act should help, a little bit. And,
Sure.
because I know artists are struggling. I
Right.
know, music isn't
Well,
the
boo-hoo,
worst.
boo-hoo. When it comes down to like fucking like the bigger artists struggling and shit, I get it. There's a lot of small artists struggling. I get that, you know what I mean? And they're kind of like inspiring musicians where they're trying to work their way on top. But I remember the time of Napster, when they're like Metallica and these like bigger bands were like bitching, like, "Hey, fuck you,
I know,
man."
right?
It's
Like,
like,
don't you have enough money? Like, why would you bitch?
exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like that's that bullshit, man. And but when it comes down to it, though, but you say that, oh, like, oh, we got our music, anytime we want it, every music. But let's not forget during that time, like Napster and shit, how long we had to wait to download fucking like one song. It was like fucking like 30, 40
Dial-up.
minutes. Yeah, exactly. Fuck that shit. But I guess it's good. Like I said, I'm a capitalist, man. Just to speak for myself and to get your money, and absolutely, I see like now it's a different. It's like now back then, like I said, you had to sell records. It was all about how selling records. You sold CDs and some shit. Like like Eminem sold like fucking 100 million albums and shit. You know what I mean? Shit like that. Like holy shit, that was like a big thing. But now it's like YouTube views and shit, like that kind of thing. Is like you see all these new artists, or whatever. They'll come out like say like Ariana Grande, for example. Right? I'm not a fan of her, but just say that for example, she'll come out with a video and right after like 24 hours, that she's got like 42 million hits. 42 million fucking hits. It's a different generation and shit. Obviously, it's different, like like in terms of views, because you got some kid out there who's probably listening to the song like 10 times in 1 hour. Sure, you know what I'm saying. So, but still, nonetheless, it shows numbers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really weird, like with music, like how you mentioned, like a video can get 42 million views, and that's what it is now. It's all about, views, and it's crazy because the standards have changed, like for platinum, gold, etc., stuff like that.
Really, I didn't know
Like,
that.
oh yeah, yeah. Like nowadays, I mean, I don't know exactly what it is, but the standard has dropped. Like it's not like back in the day, you went platinum, like that meant
Well, back
something,
then, from what I remember, it was this, right? And back then, gold used to be a big thing. Like when you went
Oh
gold, I
yeah.
was saying. So back then, gold was 100,000 copies sold. If you sold 100,000 units, 100,000 copies, you went gold. And platinum was 1 million, right? And then there was diamond, and I believe diamond at the point was 500 million. It wasn't even 1 billion; it was 500 million. But then, like you said, you see this shit like Gangnam Style and some shit on YouTube. It's got like 1 billion views, and I'm not saying in many other fucking videos and shit, right?
That one song with Pump and Kanye West, right?
Oh yeah, that shit. You're such a fucking hoe. Hey, let me tell you
I
something.
love it.
I love it.
I
You know
love
what?
it.
I love it. Yo, Kanye West, do your fucking thing. And I'm not gonna lie to you, G. I don't believe Kanye, right? I believe that he's a 100% a troll. Right, I believe that this guy is just like he knows how to be in the limelight. He knows how to have people talk about him. And God, what a great way to do it! I don't even believe that Trump believes 100%, but I swear to Christ, I love Kanye West for doing that. I'm not gonna lie, like I get it. I swear to God, Kanye, I don't believe you, but I love you even more, bro. I love you even more. Love you even more. Let's move on.
In other news, man arrested for pelting his mother with sausages, cops report, by the smoking gun. Hermes Gasparin, the 22-year-old Floridian, was arrested for allegedly pelting his mother with sausages inside the kitchen of their residence. Cops charged that Mr. Gasparin battered his 41-year-old mother after asking her to make him some food around 8 p.m. Monday night. The victim agreed to prepare the meal, but asked her son to give her a few minutes because she was busy. The unemployed Mr. Gasparin became angry when asked to wait. According to a probable cause statement, Mr. Gasparin threw the remaining sausages at his mother, with one sausage striking her in her right eye. He also allegedly pushed the victim backwards and placed his hands around her neck, but did not restrict her breathing. During police questioning, Mr. Gasparin claimed that his mother walked up and bumped him while he was eating in the kitchen.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's crazy. The defendant stated that he got mad, so he threw the remaining sausages at her. Mr. Gasparin contended that he had done nothing wrong, adding that he would not have tossed the sausages if his mother would have said sorry. Mr. Gasprin was busted for a misdemeanor, domestic battery, and booked into the county jail, where he remains locked up on a $750 bond. Upon his release, Mr. Gasprin has been ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from his mother.
Jesus, this is so fucking, what a fucking loser, dude. Let me tell you something. $750 bond. You know what I love about sometimes with these judges? They know what they're doing. They're like, you're such a fucking loser. Like, you know, you got a $750 bond. Your mom's put you in jail, or you put yourself in jail because you're a fucking idiot. And I guarantee you, he's the one. He's calling his mom like, "Mom, get me out of here! Get me out of here!" Listen, there's like this epidemic in a bad way of these man children living with their fucking families. I see it all the time. You know what I mean? And it's so fucking weird. I don't get it. I've been on my own. Jesus Christ, you've been on your own since you were like 12 and shit. But I've been on my own since I was like, 19 and shit, doing my fucking thing. Just struggling here in New York is not easy. But you know what? These man child kids, what the fuck is going on? Mom, I want dinner. It's not fast enough. I'm going to throw a piece of sausage at you. Jesus Christ, for your mom to call the cops on you, you got to be a fucking schmuck. Yo, this kid is a loser. Straight fucking loser. Anybody out there, listen, I'm not saying that, everybody's got problems and shit. I'm not saying if you're living with your home with your parents and everything, that's a bad thing, whatever. I mean, we don't know what the fuck the situation is, dude. But I would assume that if you're living with home with your folks, I would assume that you would be a lot more humble than to ask your mother to cook you a fucking meal and fucking bitch about how long it's taking. It's just, I don't know. To me, like I said, Sack, isn't that like mind boggling to you? Don't you think that stinks?
Yeah, that's crazy. It's the way I look at it is if you're over the age of 9, right? And if you're throwing things at your parents, like something's wrong.
Sure.
Something's wrong. I don't know.
That's real that shit. I hear you, man. Because no matter what, though, it's one thing. It's like, listen, I personally, how it is. Like, and I grew up with a dad, and my dad's kind of a hard ass, and we clash heads because I was trying to be my man myself, but he was always right. But here's the thing, though, right? He was always right, but it was one of those things like, oh, God, you're not so tough, and he, always put me in my place. But a woman like your mom, and you getting at your mom like that. I want to tell everybody a quick story about the Lobo right quick that Heathsack knows, right? There was a time where I did a little brief stint, and I may go into this down the road later, and I had to do a brief stint in jail, right? I was in jail, right? Long story. We'll get into that later, another show, right? But, dude, there was this guy, and I swear to God, we were all like, there was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why. There were sometimes you have to go see the nurse at weird times at night, whatever, right? So they had me like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was in this little holding cell with this tall white dude, this white old dude. He had to been in his 50s, and he had to been at least about like 6'10", right? And I'm sitting in the cell with him. We're about to go see the nurse and shit. So I'm talking to the guy. I'm like, yo, what up, bro? What's going on, G? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, he's like nonchalant. He's like, all right. He's like chilling. Like, he seems like a cool guy and shit. So like, I got to ask, what the fuck you do? What are you doing in here? And you seem like a sharp guy. You're a smart guy, He's like, I'm murder. He looked at me like murder. He's like, I was like, murder. In my head, I'm like, oh, fuck's sake. You know what I mean? And mind you, I'm in here for some bullshit. I'm in here for you practically smoking weed. You know what I mean? You violate probation, you piss dirty, and you end up in there with these animals, right? So you go in there, the guy, I was like, oh, murder. I was like, oh, all right, me, I'm from the hood. I'm like, he's a tall white guy. I'm like, get the fuck, that shit ain't, that shit don't bother me, right? So I'm like, yeah, so who the fuck you murked? Who you killed? And he was like, oh, my mother. I was like, your mother? No, I was like, excuse me? He was like, yeah, my mother. I killed my mother. I killed her while she was asleep. She's a cunt. I swear to God, G. I'm from fucking New York. I'm over here. Ask anybody down in the 5 boroughs who the fucking Lobos is. I hold the dick down. But Christ's sake, I feel like saying, guards! Guards! Get me the fuck out of here with this homicidal fucking maniac. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, listen. When it comes down to these fucking people, I'm telling you, the crazy ones, they're the ones who I want to kill my mom and all of this other shit. And my mom's, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of the house. Go get a job. Go get laid, dude. You know what I'm talking about? I hope I didn't win enough for a rant over here, Sack. Let's move on.
In other news, Sears bankruptcy appears imminent by CNN Business. Sears has 3 days to come up with $134 million. Sears Holdings, the parent company of Sears and Kmart, faces a Monday deadline to pay that much in debt. The most recent filings from Sears showed that it had only $193 million in cash on hand as of August 4th, the end of the last quarter. The company also has $269 million available to it from its lenders, according to figures they released on September 13th. Having so little cash available would make it very difficult for Sears to pay back $134 million in debt due on Monday. Plus, Sears also has to pay its current vendors and employees and stock up inventory before the holidays. All signs point to a bankruptcy filing in the next few days. Sears stock has fallen more than 50% in the last 5 days to around 35 cents a share. 3 companies that sell items at Sears told Reuters this week that Sears had missed payments to them over the past few weeks. One of the Sears major shareholders recently dumped a chunk of his stock for pennies on his original investment. The company added a new director this week who is familiar with bankruptcies and reconstructing. Companies that file for bankruptcy typically negotiate a special kind of loan to stay in business while they go through the bankruptcy process. There are several reports that Sears is in talks for that kind of financing, but negotiations don't appear to be going well. In fact, the company's lenders are encouraging Sears to shut down and liquidate. The Wall Street Journal reported Thursday Sears management has reportedly said it hopes to use Chapter 11 of the bankruptcy law to stay in business rather than Chapter 7, which leads to closing.
Well, like I said, though, man, we're we're these celebrities. Oh, let's preserve Sears. It's so weird to me when I hear about these companies that are like been around for 50 years prior, right? It's like, oh, well, they've been around since the 40s and the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and blah, 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 right? It seems like you hear about every time you listen to the news, you hear about these companies shutting down all the time, right, Zach?
Oh yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like you hear stores like Radio Shack, Sports Authority, and this year Toys R Us, which is crazy because I grew up going to Toys R Us, and I can't. I don't know. Like as a kid, you never imagined something that big going out of business. But yeah, it's
Exactly.
crazy.
Toys R Us. Like, how the fuck does that happen? How the fuck does Toys R Us go out of business? Dude, there's fucking billions of fucking kids out there. I don't know, maybe I'm losing my math over here. But there's fucking kids out there everywhere around the world. Don't kids play with toys anymore? Like, what's
Nope.
going on? They don't?
Video
Oh.
games, computers.
Oh, god damn it. It's all
My
about that
phone. Where's my phone?
it's all about that damn Fortnite. The damn Fortnite killed the action
PUBG.
figure.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
god damn it. It killed the action figure. Back then for us, it was all about the He-Man and the
G.I. Joe, fighting man from head to toe.
Oh man, but now guess what? It's all like, oh, I want a tablet, not for nothing. Like I said, I got my niece and my nephew over there, you know what I mean? God forbid if I give them a fucking action figure, they'll throw it right back in my face. They say, what are you, a fucking cheapskate? And you know what I'm talking about. They're like fucking 6 and 8, you know what I mean? Like, come on. But it's that kind of shit that's going on right now. It's like, the action figure, Toys R Us is dead. You know why? Because they talk about, remember the old song, from bikes to trains to video games is the biggest toy store there is. Gee whiz. Well, apparently now they're out of fucking business. And, it's because they weren't apparently selling enough video fucking games. You know what I'm talking about? These kids. I get it. Like, oh, these babies, they can play with their little stuffed doll, whatever I'm talking about. But these kids, after they get to a certain age, they want a fucking tablet and a fucking iPhone in front of them. And if you, God forbid, you give them a Samsung Galaxy, they'll throw it right back at you and look at you and say, what's the matter? Get your game up, pal. Let's move on, Zach.
And finally, 26 years ago today, Howard Stern radio show premiered in Albany, New York on WQBK 103.5 and 103.9 FM. For those of you that don't know who Howard Stern is a famous talk show radio host that was born January 12th, 1954. He grew up in Long Island, New York, and he's been in radio since the mid-70s. Howard Stern landed his first radio jobs while at Boston University. From 1976 to 1982, Howard Stern developed his on air personality through morning positions at WRNW in Briarcliff Manor, New York, WCCC in Hartford, Connecticut, WWWW in Detroit, Michigan, and WWDC in Washington, D.C. Howard Stern worked afternoons at WNBC in New York City from 1982 until his firing in 1985. In 1985, he began a 20-year run at the WXRK in New York City. His morning show entered syndication in 1986 and aired in 60 markets and attracted 20 million listeners at its peak. Howard Stern has won numerous industry awards. Howard Stern is the first to have the number one morning show in New York City and Los Angeles at the same time. He became the most fined radio host when the Federal Communications Commission, also known as the FCC, issued fines totaling $2.5 million to station owners for content it deemed indecent. Howard Stern became one of the highest paid radio figures after signing a 5-year deal with Sirius in 2004 worth $500 million. In recent time, he has served as a judge on America's Got Talent.
$500 million. Oh my own. That's a lot of fucking money.
Oh, yeah.
Man. Let me tell you something about Howard Stern, the king of all media. Howard Stern, before what Howard Stern did, there was this realm of radio. You know, radio, ladies and gentlemen, something that me and my pal Heapsack holds very dear. This is what we do. In some sense, we do radio, and it was a form of entertainment before the television, where families gather around. They sat around the radio. They listened to their serials in terms of their maybe their old Western serials, their Roy Rogers. Maybe they listened to their Jack Benny, if you will. You know, that was like their entertainment segments. They had their commercials, and let's not forget about Amos and Andy. You know, the entertainment they had at the time. You know, a little Edgar R. Morrow for some news. But there was this phrase that a lot of broadcasters don't like, and it's the phrase "shock jock." And that phrase is something. It was a word that was not created while Howard Stern was doing radio, and then they created this word because of him. And shock jock meant a guy who was on the radio who absolutely said the most absurd, craziest things that you've never heard in your whole life at that point. You have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, things were a lot more censored back then than they are now. And I know people they're like, no, there's no way, because we are living in a time where it's very censored and you can't say this and you can't say that, and everything is practically politically correct or incorrect for our standpoint you listen to. Howard Stern was never the guy who, at the time, who was never trying to be politically correct at all. This was a guy who absolutely defied radio. He had great interviews with A-list stars, B-list stars, C-list stars, athletes on their way up and athletes on their way down, and porn stars. The first person ever. You never heard fucking, like fucking Gene Shepard, who dubbed his audience his night people, who was great in terms of radio. You know what I mean? If you're a radio purist, you should know who Gene Shepard is. But I'd be goddamn that Gene Shepard ever had lesbians on the show, or or he had lesbians or girls up there writing the Sibian. Do your research, people. But like I said, though, man, Stern radio and what he did and the audience that he brung about, it just goes to show that, it's the realness. It's the product speaking for itself. I can't stress this enough. I love Wolfman Jack, to be honest, man. Wolfman Jack was the original DJ. Like I said, being a fan of radio, he'll tell you the same. Being a fan of radio, man, Wolfman Jack was the guy too, because this guy was doing that rebel radio shit. He was the border of Mexico, and I'm not talking about, I'm talking about before, when he got signed to LA and he was doing LA radio and shit. But this guy was legit like a fucking purist, spinning records, doing some illegal shit. I like that, Howard Stern was the guy. And I used to cut school, me and my boys, early in the morning. Like, let's ditch the first couple, 3, 4 periods, and we'll go back in there later and leave early. But we listen to Howard Stern in the morning. But Opie and Anthony was my shit. I loved Opie and Anthony because that was the afternoon drive, if you will. Howard in the morning, Opie and Anthony in the afternoons. And those guys were the best because they were raunchy at that point, and they attacked Stern. It was like, oh, Stern is kind of out of date, out of touch, whatever. And if that's the case or not, I don't know. But they definitely made a name for themselves, and now it's the All About New York radio. That shit that what the Lobo Show inspires to be. Hopefully, if I can bring you a piece of joy, entertainment, or laughs, like they did. When, like I said, though, it was amazing. It was a great time. And it's kind of a dying breed now in this day and age. But Opie and Anthony, when they came out, and he had like fucking Jim Norton, he was always there. He was always their third mic, and you had like, man, like Patrice O'Neill, Colin Quinn, Nick DiPaolo, Bill Burr, Louis C.K., coming in there frequently, like, Jim Brewer. It was hard not to be a part of that whole O&A wave. But we do have to pay respects, like I said, to the godfather of the whole thing, which was Howard Stern, my friend, Long Island Zone, from Roosevelt, 15 minutes away from the Stead, Hempstead. Howard Stern. And he's got some great stories. I love the guy. He's a brilliant, brilliant person. And you have to admit that he has a great ensemble of characters. Robin Quivers, Fred Norris, Baba Booey, and, Artie Lang when he was there, and Jackie the Joke Man, and Benji, and, a lot of those guys that contributed. But you know how it goes, though. It's radio. It's an art form that it's always been an art form. Even when Howard was doing it, or O&A was doing it, when Howard was doing it in the '90s, he was like changing the game. Even when O&A was doing it in the 2000 eras, they were changing the game. But it was still an old dying art form. It's like, all right, you guys are changing the game, but it's radio. It's radio. Like, how much can you change the game? I mean, here's the thing. Come on, am I right or wrong, Seth? Like, what's your whole thing on what's your? You love radio too. This is why you're doing it, man. AM, Jewish conservative. What's up, pal? Like, what's your whole opinion on this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, radio, it's a crazy thing. You can say it was the first form of entertainment, as far as like the last 100 years
Sure, you
goes.
can.
How you mentioned, people used to gather around and you would have to wait till 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, wait till your radio show comes on, and that was it. Like, I always go back to the movie Christmas Story, where
I
he
love
has
that
to go
movie.
back. Yeah, it's like stuff like that. Radio, it's come such a long way. Like, now you mentioned, like, people have podcasts, and you got Joe Rogan, and times have changed, and Howard Stern really was that first guy that was edgy, and you really wanted to see who he was going to have on, because he had the who's who. You name it, they've been on the show. And I loved his interviews. He would go in depth, and they were long. I learned a lot from his interviews, from people, like musicians, actors, you name it. Yeah, he really was a breakthrough.
Absolutely, and you mentioned Joe Rogan too. That's some guy who I should have mentioned, actually, to be quite frank. Joe Rogan is the guy who's taking the ball in terms of whatever radio is. I think, to be, he didn't necessarily create podcasts, but I feel like he's the godfather of podcasts.
Yeah,
Like,
I
podcasts,
agree.
it was a different medium in some sense. It wasn't like that. Oh, you have to be in a radio show and all the rules that goes into that, or not necessarily satellite radio itself. But you have to give him his respect. You have to give him his props. It's that kind of shit. But it's like, but you're absolutely right. He did have the who's in there: rock stars, porn stars, celebrities A, B, C, and D. Quite frank, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was crazy because, like, when I think about it, like in 1992, that's really when he became who he is. You know what I mean? They gave him the title, the King of Media, or something like that. And it's just like, when I look back at it, because you can go on YouTube now and you could watch archives of the old shows, and man, they're so funny. And you'll be surprised, man. Like, you'll go back and you'll be like, oh my god, he was on the Howard Stern show, or she was on this show.
Yeah,
And like,
he made careers. Bottom line, I'm not gonna lie to you. I remember when Janice Dickinson was in there, and like Anna Nicole Smith. And like like other female celebrities and shit in there, like such as Julia Roberts, and other broads and shit. You know what I'm talking about, Sec?
Yeah, he definitely had a lot of women on his show.
Yeah. And now speaking of women and shit, there's a guy with no fucking penis waving me off and shit. Apparently, you got to go, Sack. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, that was the nightly news with the Heap Sack. There is, folks. Rachel in his helicopter, collar shirt on, spraying everybody. I guess the fucking Nook had to leave to what happened. He just left and shit. I don't know. Who cares? Lobo Show, segment number 3. Heap Sack, the Lobo in the motherfucking building. And let's get this thing off our chest before we get the fuck out of here. Because we did say, for the few that were listening at that point, that we just had to get up that off our chest in terms of the McGregor fight, which was the big deal last week. We got the weekly topical podcast over here. It's not like we're doing this shit every day. So, Heap Sack, one time, homie, I know you got to get the fuck out of here, but seriously, what the fuck, what happened over there Saturday? What the fuck happened? Guys were jumping off the cages and shit. I mean, was it a big fucking deal?
Well, yeah, I was wrong. Connor lost. You mentioned that Habib, after the fight, ended up jumping over the fence, and he jumped at Conor McGregor's jiu-jitsu coach, Dylan Dennis, and he leaped like an eagle, just like his nickname. He got into a fight, and one of, I believe it was Habib's cornerman. I don't know if it was his brother, but he claims that he's a UFC fighter, jumped into the cage and pieced up McGregor pretty good. And Dana White said that guy will never fight in the UFC. And Habib now is saying that he's never going to fight in the UFC if they punish his friend. So everybody's going crazy,
right.
They're all just
yeah. And to me, it's this, all right. I don't want to make I know people are like, oh, is this like a fight segment? Like, no, it's not a fight segment. I think this actually is relevant of news, and I think that's what we do here. And I think that to me, listen, I want to just say one thing, right? We covered the whole Connor thing prior, not even to this whole thing, right? Like Connor threw a fucking a dolly into a bus or whatever, got in trouble for that. I think Connor got a taste of his own medicine, to be quite frank. And I feel like, why are they saying this Khabib guy and his buddies should get they're banned from the UFC? I think they're jumping the gun. I think what Conor did initially, not even to when it came to the whole Khabib thing, I think that's far worse because there was criminal charges pressed against this guy. And when it comes down to Khabib, there is audio. Excuse me, I apologize. There is video. And second, I don't know if you've seen this. Maybe I'm wrong here, but there is video of actually Connor punching the trainer, and this is why these other guys. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, see, Lobos knows what the fuck he's talking about, dude. So his thing, I think we're all jumping. Just like I'm saying, excuse me, Steve Sack. I don't mean to cut you off, but just remember when Connor threw the dolly the whole time. Remember when in Dana White went
in New York.
Okay, right, yeah. But remember when Dana White, he went all over the radio and he went all over the news. He was like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, Connor could possibly be done. You see, just let it die down. It's not a big deal in a way. You can't kick those boys out because I'm talking about. Connor's a piece of shit. See, there is video of Connor hitting the coach and these guys were retaliating. More of hey, dude, what the fuck? In the fighting game, you have to understand, the fighting game is not like golf. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we're supposed to be gentlemen here. No, the fighting game is the fucking fighting game. They live their life to hit people and cause misery and hurt someone. And their intentions is to put someone to sleep, if you will. These people are not if you're not a fighter, then you're not, we don't think like you. Guys, there's some fighters out there. Listen, I'm a professional fighter. I fought in the cage fight professionally. Yes, I get that. Listen, let me tell you, you can kick the crap out of us, but you know what I'm talking about, huh? Those guys. Yeah, they fucking over there. They want to tap guys out and shit. They can look at you in 1 minute and know if they can make you tap or not. Those guys are weird. You know what I mean? Come on, not for nothing. There's a lot of broads like that too. Some broad fighters. Which to be quite frank, it's not hot. Not hot at all. Sack.
I mean, there was a point in the fight where he told him, "It did, this is only business. This is only business." And then after that round, he got submitted. And the thing, what really set, Nurmagomedov off was Dylan Danis, the jiu-jitsu coach. He called him a Muslim rat in between the rounds. And if you know anything about Khabib, he's like a very, he's like very devoted Muslim.
Sure.
Yeah, and he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, prays 7 times a day. He does the whole thing.
No shit.
And he's from Dagestan. That's like there's still they like the fighting occurs every day over there. Bombings, terrorist attacks. So to them, they don't think like how us Westerners do. They don't have like normal lives. I mean, this guy still lives with his mom and dad.
Yeah, right. That's crazy.
So lives are different. So when you call him that, man, he leaped like an eagle. After the fight,
So. He sure did. He sure did leave like an eagle, and he won the shit out of that fight. And here's the thing, just to go back, that he never lost a round. You said, but he did lose a round in this fight.
That's true. Conor won the 3rd round. Yeah. That's facts.
And here's the thing, I'm not gonna lie to you. I know a lot of people will get confused, but to be honest, it was like, you know why I don't feel any other way, like bad, because I'm not gonna lie to you, Conor wasn't American. He's not American, and it's like one thing, because if Khabib made here's the thing, if the big fight was Khabib versus some American, and he made some American like tap, a lot of Americans go, but it's like, that Irish prick had it coming. Stop talking that shit, Ireland.
Exactly.
Stop talking
a lot of stuff. I mean, he was talking about his dad, his country, talking about his people, saying they're all chicken jaws and how they ran to the mountains. I mean, these people still fight. When was the last time Ireland fought in a war? It's been hundreds of years.
That's one thing. What I mean? Yeah. So, and that is the truth, though. To be honest, that he did. Conor was like saying racist shit and all that, and so it's so funny when Khabib actually reacted, like, because one thing about Conor, you have to give him that he is so like in your head, though. He got Khabib, because Khabib was that calm guy, right? Khabib was like, I'm a Muslim. I pray 7 times a day. I'm on some other shit, I'm Muslim, but one thing about Conor get in your head so much, where he Khabib, he jumped off the fence. I want to beat up everybody. Like, and my boys want to beat up. He's like that shit. Like, I'm still
Nobody's
pissed
safe.
off. Yeah, exactly. But but it is that, like, dude, Khabib, what the fuck you doing? But Conor is such a salesman. He's a salesman. I think he's better now. I think he proved that he's better. He's more of a salesman than a fighter.
Yes. Yeah.
I think Conor McGregor belongs in the next Fast and the Furious movie.
I agree. I mean, surprisingly, yeah. I think he should just go do movies. His fighting career, I think he should retire.
Right. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not trying to do sports and fight segments over here, but that was something that did change the game. And next time there is going to be a big fight, we're going to talk about that too. I don't see one coming up now. I think that's it. Do you see one coming up, Zach?
They got the Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury December 1st.
Yes, that I will watch. I am not gonna lie. But after that, then what? We'll see.
I don't know. Yeah,
maybe like Brock Lesnar versus John Jones. I guess.
Brock's gonna fight DC, but DC's fighting at the Garden next month.
Nice.
So it's crazy, man. I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Lobo Shows. We apologize if we bored you to death. Like, sub, or comment, or don't, whatever. But we do love you all, especially the ladies. But Zach, if there's anything you got to add on to this?
No, sir.
All right. So listen, man. At the Lobo Show on Twitter. Hit us up. See what's going on. If not, whatever. Say goodnight, Heapsack.
Good night, Heapsack.